All right, Sharon, good to see you as well. So let's jump into the agenda for this morning. Obviously, same old stuff, same thing. New Friday is all that is. And again, interactive learning experience. We will answer and address your questions. Feel free to ask. Just don't ask the question, is there going to be a replay? Because there will be. I mean, this is 2019, almost 2020. And so we do replay most stuff. There's usually very few things that I do that are private. And so, yeah, we'll do that, okay? Hey, Wayne, good to see you as well. And Mary from Austin, Texas. I'm assuming that's Austin, Texas. It's kind of like when I was living in Butte, Montana, it was Butte, America, not Butte, Montana. It just had an identity of its own, separate from the rest of the state, which was interesting. So we're going to cover some whys as well as hows, and we'll support and encourage each other, and we'll have fun. And that's Art just showed you the reason why I don't want to have to address the replays, because then that would mean I'd have to share a link with you. And so Art's done that for you. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, Mary. And I really, it's kind of like Austin in a lot more ways than one. It really is. Both of them are music hubs. We held in Butte the years that I was there, the International Music Festival, which was the most fascinating thing I've ever seen in my life. Everything from Polynesian music to Appalachian bluegrass. It was just fascinating to me to see that, kind of like Austin is in that way. All right, let's talk about the Uziners group for just a minute. I noticed something that we always do this every Friday on every webinar, share some things that have been shared in the group. This week we had nothing, zero, zilch, not a thing that anybody had posted, any project that they had done, nothing that had been accomplished. And so it doesn't mean you didn't do anything. It just means that we didn't have anything posted in the group. So it gave me an opportunity to talk about this. And this is my friend Danny and Hugh, both are involved in this thread right here. And both of them are good friends of mine. And I'm gonna share with you Danny's comment here. Question, Uziners, is anyone having an issue with Curve Text tool? I can't edit anything with it. And so Danny makes that post early, I believe, whatever day, Friday or whatever the 5th was. I think that was still, I don't know what day it was, but anyhow, he makes that post, and Hugh immediately asked a question just as I was making a video to give to him on the fact that we're not having any issue that we could see whatsoever with the Curve Text tool. And so the video that I showed him was actually exactly how to use the Curve Text tool, something that we've done a few times in the webinar. But it was, hey, El, good to see you, by the way. It was something that we've done frequently in the webinar. And so, but I shot over a really quick 45-second video to Danny, and he said, does this mean, that's still not, the editing bar is still not showing up. Does that mean that I need to send a ticket? And I said, try clearing your cache first. You know, we talked about that last week, how important it is to clear your cache. And look what happens next. This is really important. What Danny says is that worked. Now, here's the reason why this is so important. I have a name for that. The name that I call it is close the loop. When somebody answers your question, make sure that you close the loop. Don't leave it hanging out there, because here's the thing. I'm not in support. I don't do support for Uzine, but there are two people who frequently monitor the group that do support. When they see that, then they don't know, should I be looking for a ticket? Should I be doing something? Is there something we look for on the platform? Do we go test it out? What do we do? If you close the loop and say that worked, then that ends everything. And somebody who comes into the group and they're looking and they see that that was a problem and we don't see that it was resolved, it leaves things wide open. It just makes it difficult for there to be good, clear communication go on. And the group should become a great resource for people who are looking for answers. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you understand what I'm saying when I say close the loop or complete the loop? You open the question, somebody answered it. Make sure that you let them know that what you told them worked, or it didn't work, or whatever. But it makes life better for all of us. It makes the group more positive. It makes it positive, obviously, but it makes it a more valuable resource for people who are just coming in. It also, I've said this last week that I looked, I haven't counted for a while. Exactly, Glenn. Our brain's looking for completion. Now I can relax. If Danny doesn't respond to me, then I'm thinking about, okay, well, then apparently that didn't work. So let me think if there's another answer to this, because I want to make sure that I give people an opportunity to be successful. It's not my support. It's not even my group. I'm just a flunky in the group like everybody else. But I want to make sure that people are successful when they use the platform, regardless of what platform it is. And if you're not completing the loop, then people don't know. And I agree, Don, it's just a common courtesy, but sometimes we forget that. And we get in a hurry and a hustle and we forget it. And so just a reminder today to complete the loop. It really helps us. It makes the group a better resource. It reduces the amount of strain that's on support, which is one of the things that I removed from last week, but we shared that last week, that support's a little understaffed right now. And so sending additional tickets, if I had not responded to Danny the second time, he would have sent in a ticket. All he needed to do was clear his cache. And pretty simple. I'm gonna show you another little trick when we get to the platform that will sometimes turn that toolbar on and off. I've just noticed this, and I was doing something this week that triggered that, and so I said, got to remember that for the webinar. Okay, so just a little common courtesy, complete the loop. It really helps, and it makes the group more valuable as a resource to everybody else. I will be talking a little bit about some of the things that Elle shared in this. I keep bringing this up, but I'll talk about this, but primarily because I want to really focus on this week, because there's something really cool that has happened that gives you an opportunity. So I want to make sure that you have a chance. I'm always looking for opportunities for you, opportunities to do something that makes you stand out from everybody else. Hopefully you appreciate that. Hopefully that's been beneficial to you. But this is a great chance for you to be able to take advantage of things that are going on in the world. Okay, Rico, good to have you as well. Now, I'm always telling you to begin with the end in mind, but there's another side to that coin, and I want to talk about the other side to that coin today for just a moment. All right, I want to talk about begin with the audience in mind. It's always important to begin with the end in mind. We always have to do that, because if I don't know where I'm going, I have no idea how I'm going to get there. But if I don't know who's at the end of that road, it's not going to help me either. So there's two things I have to have in consideration. I realize I put a lot of focus on beginning with the end in mind, but sometimes we have to begin with the audience in mind as well. We can't forget that. That's so important. What gets their attention? So I have these questions, and there's 4 things here. What gets their attention? What is it that's going to get the attention of my audience? Okay, is my audience, the audience that I'm trying to address, is that audience primary female, or is it primarily male? Notice an interesting thing when I flicked on this picture here. A couple of women commented about the look on my grandson's face. The guys all went, okay, what else is new? Right? So what gets their attention? You're looking to see what gets the person's attention. Understand your audience and what it is that gets their attention. Because if you get their attention, this is a battle. Visuals are a battle for attention. Does everybody understand that? We talk about this all the time. The struggle that we have is getting people's attention. You walk into a bookstore, there's a reason why the covers on books are not black lettering on white background, because that's your chance. The cover is your chance for people to give you their attention. Now, there's a lot of other things you have to do with that, but what gets their attention? So the first question I have to ask myself, if I'm going to begin with the audience in mind, aside from the obvious things like who are they and where and all of those things, but what is it that gets their attention? I need to know what's going to get their attention. I know that the look on my grandson's face is going to capture people's attention. I know that. All right. Now, this communicates something very different than if it was a picture of me, right? With my fist doubled up and like that. Communicate something very different, which is the next question. What attracts them? What attracts them? What is it that I'm going to do that's going to make this attractive for them? And if I say this all the time, sometimes people make their graphics too crowded. They make them too noisy. They make them too busy. They try to stuff everything that they can possibly stuff into a visual image. And does that attract people or does it distract them? Which of the two are you going to get when you have too much noise in a visual? We actually had 2 webinars. I can't remember where they're at. They're in the replays someplace, I think, before we switched to platforms, where we took a whole bunch of things that I had found across the web, and we broke them down and took a look at them carefully to see if that was attracting or distracting. And I'm going to go with the path of least resistance. A little bit says it depends on your audience, but usually the less busy most respond. And visual, and Peter's hitting the nail on the head. Visual overkill is not good. If it's too busy, usually we just pass that. Usually we do. There are reasons why you may have a lot of things in a visual, but it's really easy, and that's my third point, focus or distraction. Am I going to be able to focus their attention on one thing, or am I going to distract them? Back when I was the brand ambassador for Colonial Life, they came out with a product that had eight different levels, and they had 15 features that they wanted to highlight. They put that on a single screen. 8 different features, 8 different levels, and 15 different features, and they put that on a single screen. Did y'all hear me carefully? And when and my job is I am supposed to present with that. And I flipped to that slide. I didn't know it was in the deck. I flipped to, because I told them to take it out. I flipped to that slide, and all you could see was stuff. You couldn't see a thing. And I shut the slide projector off and walked over and stood in front of where the slide would have been at, and I addressed those things from there. Because I needed people to be focused on me. I needed them to be focused on the highlight of what was happening, not on this busyness that then immediately turned everybody off. When you have that much noise that's going on, how much more attractive is your phone or anything else that might grab your focus and your attention? So beginning with the audience in mind, I have to understand, am I going to create focus or distraction? Am I going to want people to stop and pause? Or am I going to immediately cause them to move on? And we've taken a look at the size, something as simple as the size of a graphic on a Facebook feed, and we've done it with a phone. And did that a couple of different times where we took the size of the screen that's available on the phone. If all I can see is the graphic when I'm in the news feed on Facebook or on Twitter, and all I can see is the graphic, and I don't see the really important part, which is the text and the call to action, then I'm probably going to flip right on by it. I need to be able, and so something as simple as the size of your graphic and understanding where it's going to go and who's going to pay attention to it is extremely important. Does anybody remember what I told you was the ideal size for a Facebook feed graphic? Does anybody remember that? Tell if anybody's been paying attention to me. And we did it. I actually took half of the webinar one day and just showed you various phones and various screen sizes and various image sizes. Nobody remembers that. It's 800 pixels by 800 pixels. Still gives me room for well, I'm glad for you that you use Canva, but this is not a Canva webinar. $800 by 800, exactly. Where everybody else will have 1,000 by 1,000, or they'll have 1,000 by 800 or whatever. 800 by 800 is perfect size. And it fits across the board when you do that, okay? Next thing is now, and number four. Number four is, are you trying to show off your skills? You're trying to get results. And again, I don't want the person to be impressed with the visual. I want them to be impressed with the message. Does that make sense to everybody? Impress people with the message, not the visual. The results are what you want to get. That's the reason why you don't want just the visual to show up on the phone. Because if just the visual shows up on the phone, then all you're doing is showing off the visual. The results are in the message. And you can't forget that. Okay? All right. Next thing is, told you we're going to talk about opportunities for a moment. And this week, something happened this past week that was kind of cool. Convertri came out with a big promotion. Lots of people jumped on the Convertri bandwagon, and I've been pitching Convertri forever. I think my testimony is still left on one of their sales pages from years ago. And I actually, one of the very first pitches I did with Usign was for Convertri. And so this goes way back, and I like Convertri and I use it as a landing page builder, and I have another landing page builder that I use, but I really like Convertri and I use it for a lot of things. I think the last count I had 425 pages built on Convertri. But you need backgrounds. And it's really important to have backgrounds. And so I opened up last night, and I had 25 minutes to kill. And so I opened up Designer and I created 35 backgrounds, tweaked them just a little bit, made them so that they were comfortable as a background, and put them in a little package that I could give to people as a background. Does everybody understand what I'm saying with that? I mean, I need to have backgrounds, right? You understand that? And I need to have backgrounds. But because I need backgrounds, I don't always have time to create them. So what if you just did this for somebody, you know? Well, this is a background. And remember, what are you going to do with the background? You have a purpose for a background, okay? I'll show you that when we get to the canvas in just a minute. Because, again, what you want to do with the background is you want to make it visual. So we reduce the opacity on it, but we don't remove it, okay? Well, that's a good question. Who knows what? I have too many Zine things that come out, so I apologize. But the point was, I wanted to create in Usign. Sorry, the truth is, I was fixing to do a designer meeting when I was fiddling with the backgrounds. So, and yes, I do training for multiple of those. I actually probably share and have 100 videos I've done for training people on Convertri. But giving people just 25 backgrounds, or 35, in this case it was 35. 35 backgrounds, put them in a folder. They can upload that folder into their account, and then they can select from those backgrounds. I'll show you what you can do with that in just a minute, okay? There's another opportunity, because Convertri doesn't come with a variety of backgrounds. It doesn't come with those, so people need them. That was an opportunity to be able to do something for people if they need that. The second thing was that they also need icons. And this little thing that Melody did that day is a great opportunity to be able to make icons for a platform that doesn't have icons. They don't have icons. So they have to be imported as an image. Really, really easy for us to create a quick icon. And so I put together an icon package. Now, my headers and footers are typically dark colors. And so the icons that I create are typically have a white, yellow, or an orange color background, or color, primary color in the image. But how quick and easy is that? Right? These are opportunities. Now, whether you sell them or you give them away, you can give them away to build a list. You can do all kinds of cool things with that. But does everybody understand why I say this is an opportunity? This just came out. The first thing that people are going to notice is that they don't have icons. Well, here's a great opportunity for you to be able to say, hey, look, for $1, I'll give you 35 icons, or for to get on my mailing list, I'll give you 30. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, I just think it's important that we understand. Hey, this happened. This went on. Lots of people are jumping on this bandwagon. What's missing, and how can I fill in that blank? Really easy to do. And this is standard. I'm not creating a brand new background for every one of these, for every person. Creating a package. All right. I'm not creating a brand new icon for every one of these people. And listen, don't get lost in this. This has to be my branded color over here. That's malarkey. Nobody says, "Oh, I have to make sure that I get Bob's thing because Bob has his branded color in his Twitter background." Nah, it ain't gonna happen. Somebody went awry. All right. Next thing is we're going to talk about the ISO Creator for just a little bit. It's kind of a cool platform. This is in total transparency, and I try to be this way with everybody every time, regardless of what platform I'm on or how I'm doing it. But in total transparency, I'm looking at this here. What part of my audience will find this something that will get their attention? And I have some audience that it will get their attention, but that's kind of a process that you have to go through. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? You have to think about what audience is this going to be the appropriate fit for. And so we'll play with that for a little bit. I'll show you a really fast tip for creating these, and what you can do to create those backgrounds. Okay, does that sound good to everybody? And then we'll answer any questions that you might have. Let me get my screen back up here and we'll jump out. Okay. I'll share a different screen. And we'll be good to go here in just a second. All right, you should be seeing my Convertri screen now first, right? Let me adjust things just a little bit. See my Convertri screen here. I'm going to reduce the size of this so it'll be easier for us to function. All right. Now, I'll show you a couple of things about backgrounds, okay? And this is going to be important because over in Designer, I can create the background image. So let me just open up a couple of background. Let me open up a background that I have here, okay? I'm going to, let me put this in as an image, first of all. Grab this as an image. Wow, we're slow today. I'm sorry. Now, if I'm going to use this as a background, first of all, I realize that's really, really hot. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say it's really hot? Do you understand what we're talking about here? I'm going to use this as a background. I'll make this bigger so it doesn't look distorted. But man, it's a hot background. Okay. Well, I'm going to do the same thing in Convertri that I would do if I were doing this. Are you not seeing the background at all, Don? You might need to refresh. Is everybody seeing the background okay? Don, you may need to refresh your screen using F5, okay? Now, to me, this is just really, really hot for a background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a panel on top of it. This is exactly the same thing that we do in Usein, right? It's exactly the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this panel across the top of this. I'm going to leave just a little bit of it so I can see. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I tell you to do all the time inside of Usein, right? And I'm going to change the color of this panel here by reducing its opacity in exactly the same way I do that in Usein, right? Now I can select that. Watch what happens when I do this, okay? I'm going to put text on top of this. We'll make this a H2 tag so it'll be easier to see because I've had to reduce the size of my screen. And I'm going to duplicate this in exactly the same way. I'm going to grab this and put it up here. Which one of those is easier to read? So as wonderful as the backgrounds are, and when you were talking about a busy background, do you see how important that? I'm not going to use the background straight out of the box, if I can use that phrase, because I'm going to put an overlay over the top of it. Again, I have to begin with the end in mind. What's going to be the end use of that? I've actually created a video for people who are going to import the backgrounds and the icons to show them how to use those backgrounds and icons by overlaying it with a color like this. Everybody understand what a valuable opportunity this is? You're taking advantage. You're riding a wave. No, it's available to me. I created it for me, Linda. This is what I do for a living. Yes, we could. Yes, we could. Again, I'm not trying to pitch to Bertram's group. Don't misunderstand what I'm doing. But I want you to understand what the value of this is. This was the color of the overlay out of the box. All right. This is when you pick a panel, you grab a panel, that's the color of it. But what I did that made it special was I reduced the opacity of it. It didn't stay there. Forgot to choose it. But this is exactly the same thing that I have you do in UZine, right? But that's what you do with the backgrounds. That's the reason why people they're going to need that, because straight out of the box, unless you use a template, and if you use a template, what do you have when you use a template? Somebody answer this for me. What do you have when you use a template? Because Convertri has tons of templates. UZine has tons of templates. Everybody has tons of templates. But when you have a template, you have something that absolutely everybody else has. Bingo, right? You have something. It's not a bad place to start, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the backgrounds. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the fonts. So by giving people a background, I've given them a great place to be able to modify this and make it their own. Hey, Sam. So everybody understand that? Now, let me do one more. I'm going to add an icon here. I'm going to add an icon. And icons are images. They're not icons in Convertri. So I'm going to add an icon. As you can tell, I've been doing this for a little while. I'm going to add an icon here. Any of these look familiar? And this one's 300 by 300. Now, I can make that icon little, but because I saved it as a PNG file, not because I saved it as a PNG file, it has a transparent background because I saved it as a PNG file. But this allows me to be able to use it however I want to. Okay, but I make mine 350 by 350 or 300 by 300 or 400 by 400. I typically do that, and then that makes it easy for me to be able to apply those icons. Everybody with me? Do you see the opportunity now? My job is to point out to you opportunities to be able to take what you have with UZine and be able to use it other places. Now, there is an integration with Convertri. I could get in trouble for saying this. I don't use integrations. I just download the stuff to my hard drive, upload it to my application, and use it there. Integrations, I got to find this stuff. It's searching folders and all. Just for me, I like to make things simple and I keep it fast. Okay. What I can't do here is I can't change the color of this icon. All I can do, it's imported as an image, so I'm using it as an image. All right. Is that clear to everybody? You understand why I had you look at this today? I mean, an integration would be different if a window popped up right here with UZine in it and I was able to modify the image right there. It doesn't do that. All it does is it stores my completed images. Well, I don't want to store my completed images. I want to use them and move on. Okay? All right, so let's go back over here. I'm going to show you, Don, if you did that, if you erase the background, it is not the program. It is, guess what? You know what I'm going to say. Yeah. Because if you remove a background, then you got to make sure over here that you've marked transparent in this box. Otherwise, you're going to get, come on, Eric. You're going to get a white background. Make sure you mark transparent. I wish I could tell you how many times I have friends of mine who say, all I'm getting is a white background. I said, turn the transparent tab on. I did. No, you didn't. Go turn the transparent tab on. Oh, it's working now, which is code for saying, I forgot to turn the transparent tab on. Right? We've all been there. We've all done that. Okay? So make sure you click the transparent right here, and then you save it as a ping file, and you will have no problem whatsoever. I promise you will have no problem whatsoever. All right, so let's take a look at a quick way to do this, okay? I am going to open up my icon vectors over here, and there's a whole bunch of these. Now, you may find, for example, I'm going to show you something here. You may find that you have somebody who does a lot of training lessons. This would be a great icon for training lessons. You may find somebody that has a support channel or a chat channel or a place where they can upload images. You may find something here that works really, really well for that. You may have an email process that you're looking for. But this is a great place to be able to create icons and still be able to use them in a platform like Convertly that doesn't import icons. All right? You're a problem solver. Don't ever forget that. Your job is to solve problems. So what I'm going to do is I have this microphone right here. This is the process I use for doing this. I click on my icon that is on my screen. This is the size that I want it to be. It's 300 by 300. Give myself a little room around the outside of that for those funky, wanky sized icons. And I go over here, click on the replace tab right there. Do y'all see that? Then I go over here and I hit this. And this is one of those really funky, wanky sized images. So I'm going to grab this and make it smaller so that it fits inside of the border. Like that. For those of you who are new, you can hit it right here and it will center it right in the middle of that. Okay, did you see that? That's right here on your layering tool. Now, I'm going to go over here. I have that color right here. Click that color. And then I download this. I'm going to give it a number. Icon yellow 7. All right, may have added an extra thing in there with my fat fingers typing. We'll go back over here. I'll show you how to do these when they're all the same size. That one right there. I'll get rid of the original. But rather than having to resize these all the time, this is what you do. For all of these that are exactly the same size, I click on the icon, come over here to the replace tab, roll over here. I'm going to replace it with this. See there? So I literally have 3 mouse clicks. I've hit the replace key, I hit this, then I go up here, click on the color image, and there. Now I'm ready to download. And I don't want to download it as a JPEG file. I should pay attention to what I'm doing and not what y'all are saying. Icon yellow 8. The replace key, Don, is amazing. It's literally amazing. And so I did that with the icons. You see how to do that with the icons. You're all following the process there, Robin. I'm sorry that you're missing the delay in the screen. I'll try to do a better job here. Make sure that I hit that, okay? But I'll show you something with the replace key. The replace key is this little key right here that says, are y'all ready? Replace when you mouse over the top of it. If you can't find something, park on an icon. 99% of the time, the instructions for the icon is going to be right there, okay? So always just go down your toolbar. Now, it's possible that I have something that I can't replace. It's possible for that, okay? What icon did you use to resize? I'm not sure what you mean, Rob. I'm really not sure what you mean, because I don't have to resize my icons. So I'll show you the original size. Let me show you the original size, okay? I think that's your question. I think. I'll delete this. When I resize the microphone, I just had to manually resize it because it's a weird size. But see, that's the standard size of the microphone. I know it's really hard to see in the yellow. It just happened to be on the yellow when we were doing that. So that's the original size of the microphone right here, whatever that is. And I don't even know what size that is, so we'll find out. This is the original size. This is how you can tell what size something is too, by the way. I can measure the height of that. Just like that. And it tells me right here that that is 297 pixels high. Probably a little closer. It's probably 300 pixels is what it probably is. Okay. Did y'all know you could do that? That this was right up here in the corner would tell you what size something was when you imported it originally. Okay. These are the things that you discover when it's college football season and the score's being run up by Alabama on somebody and you run out, it's not interesting anymore. These are the things that you find. So if you're all or not Alabama fans, you will probably never find this stuff. All right, now, I don't know. This is going to be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to seeing how this game's going to turn out. All right, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to show you the size that I use for background sizes. I use this Facebook Ad Large. All right. Now, watch how I use the replace tool this time around. This is my graphics. I'm gonna go back over here to the integrations, and this time from Pixabay, I'm gonna pick fall scenes. Okay. Well, I don't know if you have to be an Alabama fan to use Uzine. But you can be sure that it will come up somewhere in a webinar. Okay. All right. These are large images. So when I click on the image, watch what happens here. It's not the size that I want to save for my background. Y'all see that? Is that obvious? It's not the size I want to use for my background. So what I'm going to do is, and the other thing that you'll discover is that they're all that size. All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to now make this image right here my background. I can do this because it's not going to distort it much. It's going to just do this. Okay. It's actually not going to distort it at all. It's just going to zoom in on it a little bit. So now I've made the image the background. Is that clear? So now I have this image as the background. If I want to use this as a background, like I showed you over here in Convertri, like this, I want to keep it this color right here, even though that color is pretty bright. I'm going to tune it down or tone it down once I get inside the platform. So if I want to do this right here, what I'm going to do now Yeah, Tyree, I'll do that in just a minute. What I'm going to do, I've now made this the background. So it's zoomed in. It looks really good. It's the right size. Everything's cool, right? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the opacity on this because I don't want to keep it 100%. And I've found that somewhere between 75 and 85 is a good place. All right. I want to make sure that I've turned my background because this is how it's going to be used and how it's going to be saved. Okay. I'm going to make sure that my background is white. All right. Because you notice when I do this. All right. So now it's showing through. Got that? Excuse me. We'll go back to 85. I think that's a pretty good place to park that. Right, or 86 or something close. And so I've got it here. If I turn this on transparent, there's a difference between them two. Do you see that? All right, so the first thing I do is I tone that down a bit. I could also do this. I could create this by using a filter. I could make that a grayscale. I've totally changed the look of that, right? Excuse me. So I could make this the background. I could have two options for that. I could have the original. I could have the grayscale. All right. And they will import really well into the background in Convertri. And then I'm going to put an overlay over the top of it because what happens in here, all right, what happens in here, if I take a text and I drop the text in here, let me get a text. This is too busy for you to see it, right? It's too much going on. So what you're going to do in Convertri is the very thing I did, the difference between these two, right? What I'm going to do, if I'm making this design, not going to put it in somebody else's platform or in a package that I'm going to give to somebody who just bought Convertri, what I'm going to do instead is, and this, like I said, this is what we teach you to do all the time. We'll go over here and we'll grab a, not an arrow. That was a dumb thing to do, Eric. Sorry. We're going to grab shape. And I'm going to take this shape over here. And I'm going to move it to the background. I'm going to send it backwards. So this is sitting on top of it. Change the color of that, make it white. Now I'm going to reduce the opacity of it. And even though the background is busy, even though the background behind that is busy, and I have a very transparent block here, same principle, exactly the same principle that I'm going to use in Convertri, I use in Designer or Uzine. Also use it in Designer. But you understand where I'm going with that? Do you see what I'm saying when I say that? Very important that you get this because this is the reason why we practice these skills because they're transferable. All right, now I'm going to show you something that you can't do, in another platform. What you can't do is I'm going to click on this box, and now what I'm going to do on this box is I'm going to add a blur to it. Right? I can't do that over here. All I can do is add this panel. I can't blur the edges of it, but I can do it over here. Okay. Now let me ask you, would this make pretty cool look? Would this, we can even get rid of this. Would this make a pretty awesome background? I think so. What did I click to make that border? Oh, I got you. Over here, what I click is up here where it says special effects, because guess what this is? It's a special effect. I click on blur. I want to blur the edges of that. And there we go. You can see what this looks like with the edges blurred. That helps a lot when you have a really busy background and you don't want a really sharp edge like this. But the reason why I didn't put anything on the background itself is because I want to give people flexibility and freedom to be able to do it here. Right? So now let's take this one step further. I have this background right here. I'll go back to my graphics, back to my integrations. And let's just say, for example, that I'm going to make 35 of these in 25 minutes, which I did last night. I need this to be exactly the same size every time, right? Click on this, select that, hit the replace tab. Notice how this changes blue. Watch carefully how that changes blue. So I can go over here, and I can now replace that just like that. Do you see how I did that? I don't have to resize it. I don't have to do anything. It's going to come out exactly the right size. On this one, I'm going to want to reduce the opacity because that's pretty bright. I'm going to reduce the opacity 70% for this one. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an overlay over the top of it anyhow, right? Because my landing page background, as cool as the background is, it's not a canvas to write on. Didn't see how I got the leaves to fit the screen. Watch, I'll show you. Over here, I'm going to select the replace key. When I select the replace key, it turns blue. Do you see how it's turned blue? Notice carefully on the toolbar on the left hand, on the right hand side. See what I'm missing. Okay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I've selected the replace tab. When I hit this, it's going to replace that exactly the size of my canvas. Again, this is another one of those, a little too bright. So I'm going to turn the opacity down a little bit. This is another case where that grayscale filter might look awesome, right? It's also a place where this might look awesome if I turn it down. So I'm just going to play with this until I get things that work really cool. Now I don't play too much. I've already told you what some of those rules are. When I put a filter, I typically use the filter at 30%. Okay. That way I'm not guessing every time. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when I reduce the opacity, I typically do it by 5% each time, but I usually it's somewhere between 90 and 70. All right. And it's pretty, I can tell the difference in 5% on the opacity. So it's pretty easy to reproduce that in every one of them. What doesn't happen is when I use the replace tool, it does not apply the same opacity and it does not apply the same filter. One is the opacity of the filter. When I go back to the original here, you'll see that. This is the opacity of the filter. All right. That's the opacity of the filter. This is the opacity of the image. Now, yes. No, you can't type in those values. I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else when you said that. This is not editable. You have to use the slider. They're both developed with sliders on them. All right, any questions about that? This is a great way to be able to do that. Great opportunity for you. Okay, we did it with the icons. We did it with the backgrounds. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Now, I haven't been able to reproduce it yet. All right. It sets the image to the background. It's the one that says set as background. Again, roll your mouse over the icons. They'll tell you what they do. Now, these make gorgeous images to use in a background if you do this, as long as you create an overlay panel over the top of it, so you've got a canvas to put the text on. Same skill that you use over here. Everybody understand? All right. I thought it would be fun just because we got all this attention going on in the space around Convertru right now to be able to show you how to make backgrounds. Next week, I didn't get to the ISO Creator. We just completely ran out of time this morning. Next week, I'll do the ISO Creator. And the other thing I'm going to do is show you how to make geometric backgrounds that are pretty fascinating by the use of, and I want you all to think about this just for about 8 seconds and you'll figure it out. Just simply by using, let's see, I need a funky shape here. Where's my shapes icon at? Right here. Duh. Like this. Okay. Y'all figure this out in just a minute. I promise you, you will. But you can see, you can do some really interesting backgrounds like this, right? So once y'all be thinking about that, next Friday, we'll cover that when we meet you back here next week. Okay, somebody's asked my least favorite question of all. Is there an undo button or command? There is, but I did a whole webinar on living life without an undo button. Make mistakes, learn from them, and make it happen. Okay, Charlotte, the best way to access the ISO Creator is there's a link inside the group. Okay, there's a link to that inside the group, and you'll find it there. All right, you'll find the information about it there. I don't know anything about it. I just know I just use it. Okay. All right. I'll see you all back here next week.